Here's something I bought with one of my engines. I wanted to look on some performance fans. Now I know it's not needed on this water-cooled engine, but I wanted to see if I could get a high-performance fan for my air-cooled models, and I just experimented with this. Now this one I didn't have so much luck with, and I was it only lasted about 5 minutes the most. I used grade 8 screws with washers, and you have to make sure that if you go to put them in these holes that they will not stick through those holes and hit those windings in there, because if they do, you'll wreck the windings, and it's a $150 repair. So I put this on the motor to try it out. I wanted to just see what the air pressure was like on it. Now, what happened is when I started up the bike with the fan on it, the fan spun for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then it just shattered. It went all to pieces. The only thing that was left was just the bolts were there and a few red pieces, but the rest of the red pieces were everywhere. I think it was just a bad mold or something on that. Now here we go. We're going to get down to the brass tacks of reed valves. This is your typical CT reed valve. It'll say CT on it. I don't know what CT stands for. Let's see. Dang it. But this one came with the top piece. It came with the boost bottle, which I think is more cosmetic than anything else. But it's, you know, I didn't get it to work. I really didn't try. It also comes with extra all these nice little Allen head bolts, which are nice. And it comes with 2 of these bent stays, and these are the standard reeds it comes with, the white plastic, 2 of those, and these are just 2 of my carbon reeds, which I think are basically white plastic just colored like carbon, but I don't know. And then they come with these reed stops, which keep the reeds from fluttering all the way open. This is your reed cage. These hold the reeds onto the cage, and you have 2 gaskets, for one to go on here and one to go on your intake next to your motor. Now your ordinary reed cage that you get with a CT manifold is 1.5 inches wide, or 3.5 centimeters. And so it's a lot larger than the stock one, which will give you more fuel that'll go through it. Here is the underside of it. If you'll notice, it has 4 chambers. And it is kind of rough in there, and you can see where the 3 area, 1, 2, 3 little bolts where that little piece of steel goes on each side to hold them in there. You want to make sure that when you go to build your reed cage that you make it airtight, you also adjust it correctly, and that you have all the bolts really good and tight so they don't fall off and going down in your cylinder. So in order to build a reed cage, first thing we have to do is we get the reeds, and you'll notice the reeds have a little bit of adjustment on them. Now the adjustment is not for back and forth. The adjustment is so you can go like this and like this with it, just a little bit, because you want your reeds right here, whatever reeds you get, you want your reeds to fully cover all this edge right here and here and here. You don't want to have any loose gaps, because when the air pump is going into its compression mode, You don't want to have it blowing any fuel back out the reeds. Reeds are only a one-way valve. They let fuel in, and that's it. Then after you put your reed on one side, you will put your little stainless steel stay on there, and it's bent. It's bent like this. Like this. And what it does is both of its fingers push down on the ends of the reed to keep it on the top of the cage here, so that they have a little bit of pressure when the reeds open and they snap back. It's like a little spring. And then you have your reed stays, and these stays are put on the last thing, and what they do is keep the reed valve from opening way too far. So you can only go like this far, this far, this far, not like this far, because then you'll have reed flutter at high speeds, and it's a mess. But this is what a CT intake manifold kit looks like. And you can get all kinds of different reeds for them that I know of. I know you can get standard and Kevlar. I think that's Kevlar, something like that. Now on the 154 millimeter or 54 millimeter head, we have the black rubber ring, which goes around the outside of that little tiny divot. And what I like to do is I like to put that on, and I'll put 4 little spots of Permaseal Moto Seal on there to hold it in there when I'm working. These inner ones are nitrile, and they're high heat. That's why the nitrile works that way. So the red inner one goes all the way around this top in this cutout, and the 4 little tiny other ones go around the head. And you can see I put these are your this is your little CT manifold, and it does work, but very, very, very tightly against this big of a manifold. This is the biggest cylinder you can get for this motor, I believe, because it can't go any bigger. Now, what I like to do is put on the nitrile large O-ring first, and you can see it's got a little tiny bit of Moto Seal holding it in. That's just so it stays on there when I go to put the head on and it doesn't slip. And then I put the 4 red O-rings on there. And these O-rings, I have to say, I wish they would have used a little more efficient design on there. I mean, it's a great cylinder, but that's the one weak part about it. And then when you put your head on, your cylinder head, it will clamp down and put pressure on all the rings, and hopefully you won't get any fire and flame blowing out of that into your water chamber. That's a theory anyway. Then there's the piston, and you always want to remember on the piston that little tiny arrow is pointed towards your exhaust. Very important. And then here's the head, and you can see I've got a little bit of gray Moto Seal there, and there, and there, and there. So I'm all ready to tap that in when I feel it's ready. Now I've already got my piston where I know it's set. I've started to put blue Loctite on the top here. Loctite's very important, especially with these motors. They just vibrate like hell because they got so much power. And there you can see right there, that is the exhaust. It's got a huge exhaust. That's why it's very good to take your little emery cloth or whatever and soften those edges. And of course, this is where CT gets its logo from. It says CT right there. That's on the manifold.